Having a classroom management plan allows freedom. It does the work for you when the time comes for holding students accountable. It's nothing personal. I used to always start the school year off by talking about the rules and by talking about my expectations because I knew that it was necessary, but I had an attitude towards it that it was really something I would rather not do. I wanted to get past it and on into teaching art. And because I had that negative attitude, I didn't do a good job of communicating to the students the importance of having rules and procedures. As we were just discussing, the most important need that a student has in your class is to feel safe. They cannot learn if they don't feel safe. And a classroom management plan is something that sets those boundaries up and creates structure. So it is actually a contract. It is a promise that you make to the kids that here are the rules. And I promise you that I will hold everyone accountable to following these rules. If you don't do that 100% of the time, then you lose the students' trust, and the atmosphere of safety that you're trying to set up will erode. Once I read Dream Class by Michael Lindzen, it created a paradigm shift in my thinking, and I began to realize that it is actually a positive thing to have rules, and it's even more positive and fair to the students when you teach those rules and expectations explicitly. I call it making the invisible visible. If you don't make your expectations known to the kids, then it's not fair when you hold them accountable because they didn't know that they were supposed to be behaving a certain way. So draw that line in the sand. What behaviors stop students from being able to learn in your classroom? Right now, go ahead and take out a piece of paper and draw a square, a large square, but leave yourself a border all the way around it that's several inches wide. On the outside of the square, write down every behavior that you can possibly think of that would get in the way of students learning in your classroom. Is it calling out? Is it back talk? Once you've made this list, think of the inside of that square as your perfect classroom. Inside of this square, everyone is on task, everyone is learning, everyone is being respectful to you and to each other. It's pleasant, it's fun. This is your ideal classroom. Now, go ahead and think about your rules that you have in your classroom right now. Do your rules address every single one of those misbehaviors? If they don't, you may want to consider editing and revising your rules, or if you're a brand new teacher, write some rules that would address those misbehaviors. My rules in my classroom now, I used to have 5, now I have 3, and they are be respectful, be responsible, and be safe. Now, there are lots of different styles of teaching and lots of different ways of looking at discipline. I have read dozens of classroom management books, some of which are uber on the strict side and teacher control, and some of which are totally on the other end of the spectrum, where the teacher doesn't have any rules at all. I don't understand that because I'm a very black and white person. For example, there is a teacher who is very influential in art education who has one rule, and this is high school: don't be a bad baby. And that works for him. In the book Love and Logic, they also tell teachers don't have a whole bunch of rules at the beginning because you don't want to overwhelm the kids and you don't want to get stressed out trying to enforce all of these different rules, which is, they've got a really good point. They talk about one rule, and that is you can do anything in this classroom that you want to as long as it doesn't cause a problem for anyone else. And a lot of people like that. That's not really my style, but if that floats your boat, that's cool. I have a feeling that those kinds of vague rules really work well for older and more mature kids who understand, they know, they've been in school for years and years and years. They don't need to be beaten over the head with be respectful, be responsible, be safe, don't talk while I'm talking, blah, 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 blah. So this one is a non-example because all of the directives start out with a negative. No cell phones, no gum or food, no throwing objects. Writing rules should really be phrased in positive language. This is a segment of a parent letter that I send home on the first day of school. And these are my rules, and it spells out in detail what each thing means. Be respectful, obey the first time without arguing or talking back, treat others the way you want to be treated, be responsible, take care of the art materials and equipment, use materials appropriately, and so on. It also spells out my consequences, which are extremely important to also post along with your rules so that the kids know what's going to happen if they do break a rule. The first offense is the warning, and the warning can be verbal, it can be eye contact, it can be a name on the board, etc. The next consequence after the warning can be variable according to the age of the child. A relocation could be a timeout, or you could call it taking a break. An older child could have some kind of a discipline essay or a writing assignment. This is a sign I post in the classroom about what the kids need to do before they leave. Make sure that you have everything put away, your table's clean, there's no trash on the floor, you're sitting down, and you are quiet. Everyone is seated, quiet, and clean before they are dismissed. And this is really helpful for middle school and sometimes even high school. I will stand and point with a yardstick. I don't even have to say anything. I can just point to the seated and quiet part, and they will be reminded that that's what they need to do. It even says a little "you" here on the bottom of that. This is from Caitlin Shellman. I got this off of the Art Teachers Facebook group, and I just thought it was fantastic for a visual rule chart for elementary. It's the same rules that I have, and then the consequences are actually the same ones that Michael Linson has: a warning, a timeout, and then a letter home if there is a third rule that is broken in that day or in that class period. This is Lindsay Moyle Paris's elementary rules that she had when she taught elementary. Be respectful, be resourceful, be responsible. Never make a rule you are not willing to enforce 100% of the time. When we're consistent, we train children to accept that no means no. When we're inconsistent, we train children to test us constantly to see if we will crack. Ultimately, our ability to be nurturant will be a function of our ability to be consistent. If you are consistent, you can use smaller and smaller consequences to govern misbehavior. If you are inconsistent, you must use larger and larger consequences to govern misbehavior.